get them out as quickly as possible.
Elsewhere, a 76-year-old man has been remanded in custody after appearing at Leicester Magistrates Court, charged with child cruelty offences. John Reuben from Nottingham has been charged with 3 counts of the willful ill treatment of a child after several children fell unwell at a summer camp in Leicestershire. 8 children from the camp near Melton Mowbray were taken to hospital as a precaution, and all have since returned home. Mr Reuben will appear at Leicester Crown Court later this month. Hamas says that it will not disarm unless an independent Palestinian state is established. The announcement comes as President Trump's Middle East envoy has met with the families of Israeli hostages being held in Gaza. Protesters in Tel Aviv clapped and chanted, "Bring them home now," as Steve Witkoff walked surrounded by security. Mr Witkoff also visited aid sites in Gaza run by the US and Israeli-backed group, the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, with the aim of bringing more food to those in the enclave. And President Trump has ordered 2 nuclear submarines to be positioned in what he described as the appropriate regions. He said he was responding to comments made by former Russian President Dmitry Medvedev, which President Trump described as highly provocative. The former president, who is now deputy chair of Russia's Security Council, said US threats of tough sanctions over its war in Ukraine were a step towards war, adding that Moscow has Soviet-era nuclear capabilities as a last resort. Those are the latest GB News headlines. Now let's go back to the Saturday 5.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Welcome back to the Saturday 5, everybody. Well, you know how this works. Over the next 3 hours, we have the biggest debates on the hottest topics. And, of course, we've got some very entertaining interviews as well. Before we get started, I promise I'll read out your says. Here's some quick ones for you. Lots of love for Kai here. Grumpy Grandad said, "I never thought I would say it, but it's good to see our beaver hunting mate back. I never agree with him, but I have missed him." Please ask Kai, Miss Sezzy says, please ask Kai if he's channeling Salvador Dali today. That's quite a fancy little top there.
You like it? I'll bring it back.
OK. Johnny Cash says, "Lovely Aussie. He's a little bit lefty, but hey ho."
That's a first.
That's the first.
Possibly the first time.
Never thought I'd hear someone say that about me.
Will, do you fancy this chair?
Wow. We know that Will can fill in.
He says tow the boats back every 5 minutes.
I'm just fair and balanced. Some people will see me as left, some as right.
Oh, yeah?
Just fair and balanced.
Sure. No one sees you as left.
Yeah, no.
Apart from this wonderful fan. Thank you very much.
Well, normally I kick off this show, but because, as you might have noticed, I'm not an Ed Miliband tribute act today. I have been a little bit under the weather, so I'm going to hand it over to the biggest lefty on the panel, Will Kingston.
And can I say as an aside, ladies and gentlemen, Alex must be almost on the verge of death to hand over the top billing on this show. Every time behind the scenes to say, well, I'm the host, I go first. So, Alex, I'm actually a bit worried for you, mate, too. I have to give that up. But I will take the top billing. What an honour. And the story I'm going to talk about is one of those stories where you look at it and you read it and you go, this is just so monumentally unfair. In the last 5 years, almost 1 million HC2 certificates or NHS free passes have been handed out to asylum seekers. Basically, this gives you free access to the NHS. It gives you free access to, wigs, glasses, prescriptions, dental care, all of the stuff which you watching at home do not get. The thread that runs through not just this awful policy, but the policy of so many of the Labor government is that, well, we're being kind and compassionate. And what I'm going to do here, I'm going to very quickly break down why this is not kind and compassionate. It is not kind and compassionate to enable a policy which lets thousands and thousands of people from third world countries in who put women and children at risk. It is not compassionate when the vast majority of these people are economic migrants as opposed to refugees. And we know this now, somewhere between 80 to 90%. It is not compassionate when you are a British citizen and it is impossible to see a doctor in this country. What Reform have to do, what the Conservatives have to do, but what every common sense person has to do when these policies arise is to say to anyone on the left, you are not being kind and compassionate. You are being thoroughly cruel to the people of this country and this is yet another example of it.
Yeah, I suspect, Kai, that that the Labour Party is in a little bit of trouble over this sort of stuff. I mean, of course, this is Tory legacy. I don't want the Tories to get let off easily on this, because we wouldn't be in this situation had they actually dealt with this issue when they had the chance to. But you know, we cannot. Can we surely not have a situation where British people are behind the queue to illegal migrants?
Look, Alex, and Will. This is such a non-story. All this story does is tell us what we already know, right? There are asylum seekers in this country. We know that. And I agree with you, that is an issue. The scale of the migration we've seen has been ridiculous and deleterious to this country. But all this is giving access for asylum seekers to access the NHS low-income scheme. That is accessible for any Brits who meet those qualifications.
Because they're British.
But the British state is legally required to provide healthcare services, right? Things like wigs, glasses, prescriptions, I don't think is that out of the question. What would you rather have for asylum seekers who are here already, that's a fact, we know that, stumbling around into the road, not having vital medication that they need? Wigs, I imagine, Will, are for cancer patients as well. So that example, it's a poor example. The fact is, these people are here, they're getting passes so that they can access healthcare as they're legally allowed to do, and it doesn't give access for them ahead of British people. That is not what's happening.
That is what is happening, Kai, because we've seen people go in with cameras to migrant hotels where they can see that they have NHS staff in their hotel. They've got a walk-in service inside their hotel. They can see an NHS staff member and get help like that in an instant, whereas the rest of us are all calling up at 8 a.m, desperately trying to get an appointment
and
on long waiting lists. And what really frustrates me is Stop the Hate turning up to these hotels. Stop Racism turning up to these hotels. Because if you want to reduce racism in society, you should want a society where people are treated equally. Where you create genuine resentment and racism towards certain groups is when you give them better treatment than other people. If you give migrants better treatment than everyone else, don't be surprised if racism starts to increase in society and you start seeing attacks on migrant hotels and whatnot.
No, I understand that, and the resentment is deeply held. I get that, because of the state the NHS is in. But the state of the NHS is not because of these free passes. Now, your example of what's happening in migrant hotels, surgeries being set up, I don't know, I've not seen that, but I can only imagine it's because people coming in with acute and dire circumstances immediately when they've arrived in this country probably need some specialist help. But that put aside, these passes, which, by the way, are over the last 5 years, are just mean that asylum seekers who are already here get access to NHS services. They don't end up ill and on our streets.
They should be deported.
Yeah,
that's a different debate.
I want to get Trey. Hang on, Will, because one second, because I want to get Trey's perspective on this. Trey, look, there's many people who are so frustrated up and down the country. They feel like they're coming at the back of the queue to people who've been here for 10 minutes, effectively. How does the government find that balance? Because maybe what Kai's saying, right, we should treat people fairly, and maybe the issues aren't because of asylum seekers. They are because of the failures of the Conservative Party, perhaps, to rectify the problems in the NHS?
I think one of the problems is the government, both this one and the previous one, didn't just grasp how important this was to people. I think there's a lot of dog whistling going on. I agree with Kai. I think there's so much of it. Really, is that the reason why there are NHS waiting lists because of this? Come on, guys, not really. But if the government had dealt with it, there wouldn't be the fuel to do the dog whistling in the first place. That's one of the problems. The perception and the reality should be that British-born people should be put first. That's exactly right. And they need to find the right balance to do that. I think there's something where it seems that the government seems quite happy that everyone's at each other's throat. But to blame everything that's gone on in the NHS because of, what did you say, 1 million HC2 certificates issued? Come on.
Over 5 years.
Over 5-year period.
And the highest number was under the
Conservative. Many of them actually were granted citizenship in the end.
As you know, I never said that was the reason for the problems in the NHS.
You did say, though, talking about people not being safe. So you're always looking at refugees and equating it to how somehow people who are over here are not safe, like they're the big threat. It sounds again and again like 1930s propaganda in Germany. I just don't understand why these people are being scapegoated again and again.
If you're insinuating what I'm saying, fascist or Nazism, I'm going to ask you to take
No, I'm not saying it. No. I'm not saying that. But it sounds similar to that.
No, it doesn't, Trey. And the fact that you are so ignorant of history that you don't get that is unbelievable. Eritreans and Somalians are 23 times more likely to commit sexual assault.
Show me those stats and break those stats down.
Well, can I ask you...
Break the stats down.
One second. Because, I think this is an important question. You're an immigrant, right? Do you feel like if you have a serious illness, but there was British people that need to be treated first, that you would be OK with the British people being treated first?
Yes, is the short answer. I don't think I deserve any special treatment as the result of being a migrant.
But can we be clear, that's not what this is. There's no indication that people are getting ahead in the queue based on this free
they're
pass.
They're not paying tax, they're not contributing in the way that anyone else
that's not
paid national insurance is contributing. They are getting preferential treatment.
It's not a queue jump. It's not a queue jump, and that's what all of you have started to say. It's not a queue jump, it is a free pass to NHS services.
By definition, you don't have to line up at the airport. You don't have to line up when you jump in a dinghy and get onto the beach of Dover. By definition, you are jumping a queue.
Kai, just an example. So Altrincham, where they opened up a migrant hotel by 2 schools, a primary school and all-girls school, by the way, without consulting the community. There was then this council meeting where people could then address their concerns, and they asked what's happening with the healthcare, and they said, oh, don't worry, guys, to make sure we don't push up the NHS waiting list, we're giving all of the migrants in the hotel private healthcare. A lot of us would love to be able to afford private healthcare. It's far nicer than the NHS, right? That is special treatment. If you don't think it is, I'm sorry.
That's fair.
OK, big stuff, big debate. This isn't going away, is it? Let's face it. We're going to be talking about this for years and years and years to go. So stay tuned. A government spokesperson has said this, though. These certificates do not give access to NHS services ahead of people who don't have one. The highest number of certificates issued in the last 5 years were under the previous administration. A spokesperson for the NHS has said this. The NHS is legally required to provide healthcare services to asylum seekers, including access to help with health costs through the NHS Low Income Scheme. Right. Well, here's your chance to live mortgage or rent-free for a year and get a bonus 5k in your bank. It is the latest Great British giveaway. And guess what? If you haven't got a mortgage or rent to pay, you can still enter and win £15,000. Here's all the details you need.
This is your chance to live mortgage or rent-free for an entire year in the latest Great British giveaway. That's right, we'll give you a cash lump sum that will cover 12 of your monthly mortgage or rent payments, up to an incredible £20,000. Plus, we'll add £5,000 on top of that for you to treat yourself. And if you don't have a mortgage or rent to pay, lucky you, we'll give you £15,000 in cash instead. You have to hurry though, as lines will close on the 29th of August. For a chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB15 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 29th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Well, still to come tonight. Up next is me. There we go. I've got a really. So I found this earlier in the week. Ofcom are paying some social media influencers with your taxpayer money to push online censorship. That is coming up next on Britain's #1 news channel and Saturday night's biggest TV show, of course, Saturday 5. See you after the break.
At GB News, we are proud to stand for you, for the Britain you love, for the communities you live in. That's what makes us the fearless champions of Britain. Its voices and its values. Because we, at GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around, a nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
You've read the headlines, you've heard what those in power have to say. How about now we actually get to the truth?
They would pay attention.
We go beyond the political theatre and tell you what's really going on behind the scenes. For a massive council tax hike, one of the biggest in the UK. Others follow their lines, but we go off script.
You sound like a broken record, you say that week after week.
Cutting through the narratives and giving you unique perspectives. That's Ben Leo tonight, Saturdays and Sundays from 9 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Welcome back to the Saturday 5. Of course, love hearing what you have to say. We've already read out 5 or 6 of your comments, gbnews.com/your say. I'll get some more in at the next break. And of course, Ask the Fives. If you put Ask the Five into your say, I'll set it aside for 8 o'clock when we can rattle through some of your questions. And hopefully there's a little special treat there for you at 8 o'clock as well. But now it's time for our next debate. And guess what? It's me. This is very weird going second on this show, but there we go. It's been a very interesting few weeks, and in my opinion, Orwell's 1984 is in full swing under Keir Starmer's Labour government. Just the other day, we discovered Ofcom have been paying social media influencers to promote propaganda about the online safety bill, some not even declaring that it's a government-sponsored post.
Hopefully I've now got your attention. Just like this pornography bit, as of the 25th of July, you will need to prove that you are over 18 to be able to get served pornography online. This is not to judge anyone or to ruin the fun for any adults. It's purely to stop children seeing content that is made for adults. The new rules are here to make the internet safer for children because some things are for adults only. To be honest, the current age checks on pornography sites just aren't cutting it.
Yeah, that's political in my opinion, because I think that's an opinion. And the fact the government are using taxpayers' money for this is shocking. So is it any surprise Donald Trump's White House has said they are deeply concerned about an email that exposes the UK government's secret elite spy units questioning a US tech firm over posts, get this, exposing two-tier policing? This is tyranny, pure and simple. Your civil liberties, freedom of speech and expression were hard fought for over hundreds of thousands of Brits died fighting in World War II for you to enjoy these rights less than 100 years ago. But now they are at very real risk of being lost forever. Kai, I will start with you.
Yes.
Listen, I was on with the former Culture Secretary the other day, who I think I've made my opinions quite clear that I hold the Tories mostly responsible for this bill.
Yeah,
Keir Starmer has, of course, and the Labour government have what I think committed an own goal and continued to press ahead with this bill and defend it. It's completely out of purpose, isn't it?
No, I think actually what you've seen is the implementation has been really poor by social media companies and so on, and platforms, right? Because actually the Act was designed so that it doesn't tell companies what to do and set out how they can do it, but actually leaves the implementation in their hands. It sets out principles, broad principles, but where public interest content is being blocked, things like some of the examples that you've highlighted on Twitter, for instance, then the government and Ofcom can interrogate the risk assessments they've made and whatever. But really, this angle here about some 2-bit Love Islanders with turkey teeth teeth promoting the government's policy, I don't think that's something to write home about. Really,
well, I want to throw up this image for you, because this is part of the rules. Now, Chloe sent this to me earlier. I hadn't seen this, so maybe Chloe can talk through it in just a second, because these are here a litany of things that are supposedly fall under the online safety bill. Is that right, Chloe?
Yeah, exactly. So, as we saw in that video that was paid for by the government, they're painting this as all being about children, but in the online safety bill, conveniently snuck in, is a list of things that are illegal for all of us and should be taken down for all of us. And on that list there, I don't know if we can bring it back up, you've got various horrific things that we can all agree should be illegal, like, for example, child sexual abuse. But conveniently snuck in there is content relating to illegal migration and people smuggling. Why on earth should that be illegal content? That's very concerning, and that's going to make people terrified to talk about these issues. We've got a nation that feels so disenfranchised at the ballot box when it comes to speaking about illegal migration, but now they're going to feel disenfranchised in that they won't be able to have a voice online because they're scared of being the next Lucy Connolly.
It exposes the hollowness at the heart of this government. At least Blair was good at spin. This isn't just spin, it's really bad spin. Like, the oldest trick in the political playbook is to say, well, please, can we think of the children, put one good thing into a bill and then put 7 or 8 really bad things in, and that is exactly what they're doing. People like Peter Kyle, and they're just saying, well, if you're against this, you're against kids looking at pornography. And we all know that this is so much more broad.
It's so much bigger than that.
And the reason they are doing it is they think that you are idiots at home. And they're not, and that's why they're so unpopular, because they take the public for idiots.
Trey, Roland here has said parents and parents alone are responsible for their kids' safety. What do you make of that?
I would absolutely agree with that. To an extent, though, obviously there are some things that are harmful towards kids, but I think ultimately parents should be responsible for how much time kids are spending online. And I think the thing that worries me about this is I'm quite passionate about the whole COVID era where there was lots of truths that were suppressed. And I agree with you, well. I wonder how many other truths will be suppressed. What we actually need to be doing is actually speaking about stuff, even if we don't agree about stuff, so it's out in the open and we can do something about it.
We can still do that. We can still do that here. Any public interest content, and yes, there have been teething problems where things that shouldn't have been blocked are blocked, right?
Teething problems.
Teething problems. No,
is that the line now?
By the social media companies. But in your example, the people smuggling and illegal migration, that is not designed to block articles about illegal migration. It's clearly in the same category as fraud, which is also in your screen grab. It's to stop people understanding how to commit fraud and glorifying people who do commit fraud.
Well, it's not hard to figure out how to commit people smuggling. You get a dinghy, you put them on it, and you charge them before. That's the problem, Kai, is that it actually doesn't... This is the issue I have with this whole bill. And anyone... And I was saying this again to the former Culture Secretary who wrote this bill. I don't think they understand even what a VPN is. And I asked her multiple times, and in my opinion, she dodged it. I asked her, can you tell me how a VPN works?
Oh, and we've had other examples, right? I think it was Dean Dorries who went into a meeting with a civil servant and asked, can they get rid of the algorithms? These people don't understand technology. That's obvious.
They don't understand it. So therefore, anything they try to do around it is easily circumvented by a smart 12-year-old with a gaming computer, Chloe.
Yeah, and the other thing, just speaking about the implementation by the social media companies in response to you, Kai, is that when the social media companies are going to be threatened with potentially imprisonment or huge fines, they're going to create an algorithm which is oversensitive and takes down loads of stuff that it shouldn't do.
OK, well, an Ofcom spokesperson has said this: helping people understand new online safety protections is an important part of our job as the communications watchdog. Like many public bodies, we work with online ambassadors to reach millions of children and adults who connect with them. In our case, explaining changes that are happening and how to stay safe. Well, there you go. Still to come tonight. Who's up next, actually? Who is it next?
I'm next. I'm next.
Guy, what have you got for us, Guy?
Maybe this whole problem with Ofcom could be solved with a working-class takeover of the British state. That's what I'm talking about.
OK, that's going to be a good one. Stay with us here on the Saturday 5. We'll see you after the break.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Whilst the UK gears up for Storm Floris, it turns increasingly hot in Portugal, although there'll be some heavy rain in Croatia and Italy, particularly the central part of Italy. Thunderstorms expected here, thunderstorms moving through parts of Croatia and Bosnia. But for much of Iberia, it's sunny spells and increased heat. Higher temperatures than average for much of Portugal. And that's expected to continue into the start of next week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hi there and welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. We've got more changeable weather on the way for Sunday, some rain for many of us, but also some sunshine following from the north later. But then for Monday, it's all attention out towards the west. Here comes Storm Floris moving across the Atlantic on Sunday afternoon, deepening as it becomes a very deep area of low pressure for the time of year and bringing some very strong winds to the north of the UK on Monday. But back to Saturday evening, we have got this area of cloud and rain pushing in across Northern Ireland and Scotland, slowly working its way southeastwards across the UK through the course of tonight. Some fairly low cloud developing, so some mist and hill fog as well, and quite humid conditions in the west. Clearer and slightly cooler down across the southeast. It does mean, though, that if you are in the south and the east of the UK, we should get off to a fairly bright, if not sunny start to the day on Sunday. So do make the most of that sunshine. It's not going to last too long. Further north and west, we run into that cloud and some outbreaks of rain. Some areas of low clouds, so misty conditions around the coast and certainly some hill fog around as well. Some heavier outbreaks of rain in places too, and quite a wet start to the day across more eastern parts of Scotland in particular. Out towards the northwest, though, of Scotland and Northern Ireland, already turning brighter here, and those brighter, sunnier conditions will work their way slowly southeastwards as we go through the course of the day. Even in the south, though, we probably won't see a huge amount of rain getting towards the south of England until very late on, and even then just the odd shower. Perhaps the odd heavier shower and even thunderstorm across the northeast of Scotland, but here there will be some sunshine, and it should feel pleasantly warm in that sunshine with temperatures into the low 20s for many of us. A very wet and windy picture, though, for Monday, especially across the northwest, so a weather warning already in place across Scotland, Northern Ireland, Northern England and the far north of Wales. Some damaging gusts of wind, so do stay tuned to the forecast. We could see some disruption. Even in the south, it will be fairly windy for the time of year. A changeable week of weather on the way, but generally settling down somewhat on Tuesday and Wednesday, and temperatures around average for the time of year.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to the Saturday 5. As ever, I want to hear what you think. gbnews.com/yoursay and put your questions in for Ask the 5. While you're at it, vote for our Saturday scrap. gbnews.com/poll. Let me just quickly read out a couple of comments here. Leslie says Ofcom needs to be abolished. We need a metaphorical bonfire of the quangos. Maybe that's coming with Doge. We talk about UK Doge. That could be heading our way. Murray says, why do adults need civil servants and politicians deciding what we can and cannot say, read or hear? America doesn't have an Ofcom and they're okay. Totally agree. 100% agree with you all. Absolutely. Complete makes sense. We shouldn't have this kind of ridiculous censorship. There we go. All right, now it's time for our next debate, and he's back. Guy, what have you got for us?
I am. Yes, the British state is getting a long overdue working class takeover. This week, the Labour government has taken action to right a historical wrong by ring-fencing internships to the civil service to people from working class backgrounds, trying to make Whitehall more representative of you, the people. Now, for me, and I'm sure many of you, this seems like a thoroughly sensible idea. But of course, the same people complaining about so-called DEI initiatives of a similar colour are now not quite happy that many working class white people are going to be having privileged access as they should. What's more, these are also the same people who sit there and tell you that the civil service is for the liberal metropolitan elite. These people so detached from the public that they can't make proper policy. Now, which one is it? The fact is, the civil service, 25% of higher education students are from a lower economic background, only 12% of the civil service is. So this is just righting an obvious wrong. Now, I'll finish on this, just one quite funny reaction to all of this. Kemi Badenoch, she disagrees with this policy completely. And she says, under my leadership, a Conservative government would scrap all this rubbish and just hire the best people. Clearly not a principle that the Conservative Party itself has actually enacted. So what do we think? I think this working class takeover of the civil service is exactly what we should be doing.
OK, well, Will, best person for the job should get the job, right?
Yeah, of course it is, and everyone knows that argument, so I won't labour the meritocracy thing. We know that we need the best people for the job. But the thing which I pick up with Kai here is that they always speak in the abstract about historical wrongs, about things that have happened in the past. And yeah, of course there have been problems in the past. But you never think about that kid who now literally can't get his dream job because you have some historical guilt about what has happened in the past. What do you say to a kid who may not be working class, and who knows how you define that, and now you are saying literally you can't have that job because apparently through no fault of your own there has been some sort of imbalance in the past. Just because you want to socially engineer things doesn't mean that you should therefore take away opportunities from people who deserve them.
Kai, I just want to add some context because I think this is important for the audience today. The definition of how they go into classes is what your job your parents had, I think at the age of 16 or something, 14, right?
Which the Social Mobility Foundation says is the best way of actually predicting somebody's class.
Right.
Imagine the amount of regulation that we'll need to be able to test that.
That's the big thing, right? Have we got the right records for that? And secondly, is that really fair? Judging a young person today based on what their parents might have done 50, 60 years ago?
The British state, what we have at the minute isn't fair. You can see that in the statistics. Will, you talk about that I'm all about righting historic wrongs. These aren't just historic wrongs. 12% of successful applicants to the civil service internship in 2024 were from a lower socioeconomic background. That doesn't represent the British people. Actually, what this does is try to right that wrong, and all of them deserve this opportunity. We're not letting people who are not as good as the people who are currently there, because we all know that there's thousands of applicants for these things for 200 jobs.
Then actually help the working class by lowering taxes. Help the working class by stopping millions of illegal migrants coming into this country and taking our houses. One is fair and one is not.
I absolutely think this is a damn good initiative. Right. You know, if you think about it, the people that have fallen back furthest are probably white working class men. Yeah. You know, and I think we need some sort of affirmative action to see them actually represented. Exactly. It's not a case of the best people in the job. We know there's a lot of nepotism that's happening, a lot of cronyism, a lot of I went to the same university. I think ordinary white working class people especially should be in the corridors of power, because it might then itself start to change some policies. I tell you why it comes into it, because when people think DEI, they always think it's always colour or sexuality or anything. Yeah. Class is a very, very important thing in this country, arguably the most important thing in this country. And there are a lot of working class people of all colours, but we've seen the stats. White working class have fallen behind. That should be represented. And that's actually a good thing, and I would have thought that you'd be for this.
Because we don't live in America.
Just for the audience's sake, of course, this is including race in this description of it. So working class could be defined as the...
Yeah, it could be defined as anything,
the 14-year-old thing. Chloe, what do you make of it?
I'll agree with Trey slightly in that I much prefer this policy to one where they say only BAME candidates can apply to this job, because it is the case in this country that is working classes who are often white, who are actually the least privileged and have the least social mobility. But I think a job should never be restricted to only one group of people can apply for it. It should be the best person for the job gets the job, and the best person for the job may well be, especially in the civil service, someone who's from a different area of the country, not all from London and not all from the same class, because they understand different groups in society that government's policies affect. They can take that into account if that wasn't the case, without restricting that job role specifically to only working class candidates.
I think if that wasn't the case, you'd see a lot of women wouldn't have actually be where they are. There are a lot of women who've always been skilled, always been gifted and weren't allowed to rise. We can't pretend that we're living in this egalitarian society and the cream rises to the top. We've had some terrible leaders who've come from blue blood backgrounds, and because of that background, they've got those jobs. We need something, even if it's artificial in nature, at least to kickstart some level of...
artificial. The thing that annoys me is it's
always artificial.
It's just so easy. It's really hard to build up the working class by raising the economic standards of this country. It's really hard to help the working class by actually giving them houses, by giving them the environment to be able to succeed. It's easy to put a quota in place. What you are doing is just an easy cop-out.
Kai, can I point this to you, because some of us here from working class backgrounds, I came from a working class background.
I'm from a penal colony.
There we go. There we go. Yeah, literally. He came over here on a boat. My opinion on this is this: like, I don't think I'd ever want to be given a job because of what my parents did before me. It would if the government said to me, actually, Alex, you've worked your backside off to get yourself into this position you are today. However, the guy next door to you's parents might have just been that little bit worse off than you, so therefore they're going to get it over you. What's the incentive for young people who are working class to work hard if they actually think, do you know what, I should just work less? Hopefully my parents might be poorer, might have been poorer back in the day.
But this leans into this fallacy that actually, by doing something like this, the people who get the job are not the best qualified. Number one, let me finish though, right? There are thousands of applicants for these roles. They are all more than qualified. Well, many of them are more than qualified. What this is about is how you pick between thousands and thousands of very qualified people, and what it then does also, recognising that, frankly, most of these people came into this world with a silver spoon in their mouth, recognising that, it tries to make sure that there are ring-fenced opportunities for people who've never had that opportunity, who are equally as good as the people who were getting that opportunity. That's not offensive to the working class.
Chloe? No.
I still think that you shouldn't be ring-fencing a job only for one group of people. There will be people who are working class, who are very well qualified, who will get some of those jobs. As long as they are genuinely selecting people properly, without prejudice, working class people will get those jobs. There may be some work to be done to prevent the cause of this problem by actually speaking to people from working classes and encouraging them to apply if they're not applying in the first place. But I don't think that saying you can't apply to this job if you're not working class is appropriate. Also, in terms of people's understanding of what's going on in the country, you may have somebody who's not from a working class background, but in their previous job roles has done lots of work with people from deprived backgrounds, may have a really good understanding of issues that makes them very well qualified for the job.
Yeah.
You don't want people who are out of touch with this country doing the jobs, I get that, but that should come through in the interview process and looking at their CV and their previous experience.
Yeah, OK, well, we've got to move on because coming up after the break, Chloe, what are you giving our audience this week? What are you talking about?
Well, I'm going to be asking the question, can we actually put up with 4 more years of Starmer after we had 2 ladies and Martin Daubney brought to tears talking about the state of this country?
That was a great show, wasn't it? That was a great
look
show.
At that after the break.
Yeah, we will indeed. We will see you all very shortly after the break. Stay with us.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with Andrew and Beth.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie is here.
I'm Michelle Duke, Britain's News Channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's News Channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here
We do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it?
no,
Because the
because
failure is...
you're
the failure is...
deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel. Yes, we did it.
Thank you for making us Britain's #1 news channel. We couldn't have done it without you.
Absolutely not. It is down to each and every single one of you who chooses to watch us, to listen to us, and to be a part of what we're trying to do. Thank you.
This is just the beginning. Britain's #1 news channel.
Welcome back to the Saturday 5, everybody. Please get in touch. gbnews.com/your say. Let me see if I can read some of them out now here. Jamand says, Kai, are you in a relationship asking for a friend? Kai?
No, I'm not. Not for a long time.
All right, that's that. Moving on. Moving on.
Get his number in the strapline.
Yeah, can we put
normally it's Will getting that treatment, now it's Kai.
All right, Chloe, take it away.
Well, I'm asking us tonight, can the nation cope with 4 more years of Keir Starmer? Can we even hold on to 2029 at this point? It's been 1 year since Labour won the general election on a promise to bring integrity, change and honesty to politics. But to be honest, we've had more lies and more boats turning up on the shore than we ever had under the Tories. People are just absolutely fed up to the point where we had these ladies crying when speaking to Martin Daubney the other day. Let's take a look.
Chris Rea said at one point on an ancient album that we were going to hell in a handcart, and he was right.
Well, ladies, thank you so much for speaking to us today from the Gunners. You got me choked up already. I think I need a stiff drink. You're already going there, Dawn, but thank you so much.
I'm thinking about my daughter. I'm thinking about my daughter. I'm thinking about next door's neighbour's daughter. You know, and nowhere safe. I shouldn't have to be in the house after 6 o'clock at night because I don't feel safe.
Just sums up the way this nation's feeling, doesn't it? And Starmer has disillusioned this nation so much that this ex-Labour voter had this to say about him.
I never thought in a place like Sunderland that a Labour Prime Minister who thinks he got in on a popular vote, he didn't by the way, would be more hated than Maggie Thatcher.
And that's saying something, isn't it? Only 1 year in, and this nation is just absolutely fed up of the man. We can't take it any longer. We've got protests erupting all over the country outside migrant hotels. Can we really take 4 more years of worrying about the safety of our girls and having this country invaded? I don't think so, do you?
Well, yeah, it's. I'm seeing your say here, flooding in. All of you at home are going, basically screaming no at the television, I think. Kai, it doesn't bode well for Keir Starmer, does it, when you've got places like Sunderland, where Martin Daubney was the other day, basically saying we used to vote Labour for generations. We voted Labour, but we will never do that again.
Yeah, I think, you know, we're also seeing union reps in Port Talbot and the steelworks apparently turning to reform. That will obviously mean big things for the Senate elections next year. I think the Labour Party's support in the last election was really broad, but very shallow, right? So what you have is they're taking votes from the Tories and from traditional Lib Dems and maybe the type of people as well who now want to vote reform. So actually, when they're trying to please everybody, they're not pleasing anybody.
Yeah.
And lots of the policies that they put in place and then U-turned on, you still have the scars on their backs from the U-turns, lots of them have just slowly taken away from their vote in lots of different areas, pensioners, from farmers, from working class people, from tax exiles or whatever. The fact of the matter is they're going to have a real struggle to find a coalition that matters in the next election if they continue on this sort of middle-of-the-road way that they're going.
Very briefly, if Keir Starmer goes, would that help your position, let's say Angela Rayner becomes Prime Minister?
I think people are looking to extremes. They're looking for something more radical than what Keir Starmer's proposing. So, yes, Angela Rayner, a more leftist government that takes real action is what this country needs.
Trey?
I just find it a bit sad what's going on. Don't you guys find it a little bit sad? I mean, even when you said, Chloe said, safety of our girls and then using words like invaded, I get it. And I think what I'm sad about is a couple of things. I'm sad that the mainstream parties didn't do something about this a long time ago. I think we can all agree with that, right? Like, you didn't do something about it with enough time to deal with boats, deal with migration and get the pulse of the country.
Until it's too late.
I disagree with it because I think the same sort of language is used against my parents and the Windrush generation when they came over, invasion, safety, etc. And that's why I'm a little bit sad about that. I think we can actually do better. But also sad in terms of people actually do feel this way, and it's quite sad that people don't feel unsafe. When you see that woman there crying, it's sad that we've got to this. Where's the leadership in our country so people don't feel this way?
Briefly from you, Will.
The tragedy of this government is they won't be able to fix things because their ideology is opposed to the answers that we need. We need to go for growth, but it's a Labor government that don't understand how to grow things.
Yeah.
We need to lower immigration, but they are instinctively pro-migration and they're anti-borders. We are not going to be able to improve in the next 4 years because they don't understand and they don't want to.
Yeah, I think you're right. I honestly cannot see a series of events that Keir Starmer is still Prime Minister in before the next election. I think he will be gone, if you want my honest opinion. But, moving on, Trey, you're the last one up.
I'm the last one up, and it's on a similar topic, actually, speaking about our lovely Kemi. Good to go?
Fire
Normally
away.
you go straight into the break. So, fire away. As a British Nigerian, I found Kemi Badenoch's recent comments disavowing her Nigerian identity not just disappointing, but transparent. This wasn't a moment of personal revelation. It was a political manoeuvre, as far as I'm concerned. A calculated attempt to distance herself from anything that might disrupt her image as an acceptable face of her party. Or should I say, a party that's actually lost the listening of the room. Now, let's be clear. Kemi grew up in Lagos. Her formative years were shaped by Nigerian culture, education, values. To claim that she's no longer identifies with Nigerian culture feels less like evolution and more like a desperate rebrand. One aimed at appealing to the reform-leaning voters and the harder edges of the Tory base. But here's the truth. The base sees right through it, and so do the rest of us. Because what this move really signals is the rot in politics, a willingness to wear any mask, disavow any truth, and say anything that might buy a few more votes. And it's exactly that kind of transparent opportunism that has eroded trust in politics and government. You can't build a better Britain by cutting off your roots and hoping no one notices. That kind of politics isn't patriotic, it's hollow.
OK.
There's something so deeply patronising in what you've said. Who are you to tell her what her identity is? Just because you may care about your Nigerian roots or you may prioritise them, she may not. I find it so... I'm not going to say sexist, but I find it so deeply patronising what you have just said. Now, the fact of the matter is I think so many people in this country are sick and tired of people prioritising ethnic or cultural backgrounds from places they've been in the past and deprioritising the fact that they're incredibly lucky to live in this country. I'm Australian, for example, but the fact I'm in this country...
Would you disavow your cultural heritage?
I think the word disavow is so wrong. But
why is it wrong, though? Because what it's saying... No, but listen to me, right? She was actually educated in Nigeria, and I would probably assert that a lot of her Nigerian ideals is what actually got her to that level of being Prime Minister. You don't know what that's like necessarily. You've got no idea.
Neither do you for her personal
It is
circumstances.
just my opinion that some of this is not necessarily deeply a conviction from her, and I don't know. That's true. I think some of it is a little bit opportunistic. I find it. We've had political leaders like Churchill who never got rid of the fact that he had an American heritage. We've had people like Kennedy who never said he wasn't Irish American.
And Boris Johnson
there is nothing wrong with
American.
but Boris
make a big
Johnson.
deal out of it.
They didn't make a big deal out of it, but they don't make an announcement of I'm no longer identified with something.
Is that because she's black, and is it because it's visible cultural difference?
I think it's because of what Rishi's gone through. I think there's an attempt for her to appeal to people who feel that multiculturalism has failed somehow. So she wants to kind of wear the colours of something so she's accepted. I think be accepted for who you are. I actually am a big fan of Kemi, just so you know, and I've said it on this show more than one. I'm a huge fan of Kemi.
You've lost Kai now.
No, I am. And I love the fact that she is of Nigerian heritage. There's nothing wrong with embracing where you're from. People who are Scottish embrace where they're from. People who are from Yorkshire or Liverpudlian embrace where they're from and that cultural heritage. There's nothing wrong with that.
Prioritising.
I didn't say about prioritising it.
I know
you're
you didn't,
saying
but that is what is happening across this country, and that is what
in your
she's
opinion.
addressing.
Look,
in your opinion.
Will, Trey, I want to hear Chloe.
There is a chance that Kemi Badenoch genuinely means this, and that's fine. Some people have a second citizenship
and I concede
they haven't spent much time there.
I concede that,
But I do agree with you, Trey, that it does feel a little bit opportunistic. It does feel like she's saying this to gain votes, and at a time when what voters really want at the moment is they're just craving authenticity, someone who just says what they think without lying and flip-flop Starman. We know he just says, whatever way to win.
Why would she not have said this a long time ago?
Guys, can I just Kai, please, very briefly?
I don't think there's any indication. This is just when she's said it on a podcast. She's not announcing anything. She hasn't renewed her passport since the noughties. This isn't opportunism. This is just her saying what her relationship is with her Nigerian heritage. This isn't new.
Okie dokie then. Right. Well, we're coming up to the top of the hour, which means we are looking forward now to our triggered tantrums. We got shocking new figures also that show how many older people are being referred, get this, to the government's anti-terrorism scheme. You will not believe the results. And of course, we're going to have our big part of the show this Saturday. Scrap, don't forget to vote, and we will see you very shortly after the weather.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hi there, and welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. We've got more changeable weather on the way for Sunday, some rain for many of us, but also some sunshine following from the north later. But then for Monday, it's all attention out towards the west. Here comes Storm Floris moving across the Atlantic on Sunday afternoon, deepening as it becomes a very deep area of low pressure for the time of year and bringing some very strong winds to the north of the UK on Monday. But back to Saturday evening, we have got this area of cloud and rain pushing in across Northern Ireland and Scotland, slowly working its way southeastwards across the UK through the course of tonight. Some fairly low cloud developing, so some mist and hill fog as well, and quite humid conditions in the west, clearer and slightly cooler down across the southeast. It does mean, though, that if you are in the south and the east of the UK, we should get off to a fairly bright, if not sunny, start to the day on Sunday. So do make the most of that sunshine. It's not going to last too long. Further north and west, we run into that cloud and some outbreaks of rain. Some areas of low clouds, so misty conditions around the coast and certainly some hill fog around as well. Some heavier outbreaks of rain in places too, and quite a wet start to the day across more eastern parts of Scotland in particular. Out towards the northwest, though, of Scotland and Northern Ireland, already turning brighter here, and those brighter, sunnier conditions will work their way slowly southeastwards as we go through the course of the day. Even in the south, though, we probably won't see a huge amount of rain getting towards the south of England until very late on, and even then just the odd shower. Perhaps the odd heavier shower and even thunderstorm across the northeast of Scotland, but here there will be some sunshine, and it should feel pleasantly warm in that sunshine with temperatures into the low 20s for many of us. A very wet and windy picture, though, for Monday, especially across the northwest, so a weather warning already in place across Scotland, Northern Ireland, Northern England and the far north of Wales. Some damaging gusts of wind, so do stay tuned to the forecast. We could see some disruption. Even in the south, it will be fairly windy for the time of year. A changeable week of weather on the way, but generally settling down somewhat on Tuesday and Wednesday, and temperatures around average for the time of year.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
This is your chance to live mortgage or rent-free for an entire year. We'll give you a cash lump sum that will cover 12 of your monthly mortgage or rent payments, up to an incredible £20,000. Plus, we'll add £5,000 on top of that for you to treat yourself. You have to hurry, though, as lines will close on the 29th of August. For a chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB15 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 29th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date. Or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Okoye, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Yes, it's Saturday night. You're here with the #1 news channel in the UK, and you're with the biggest Saturday night TV show. I'm Alex Armstrong, along with Will Kingston, Chloe Dobbs, Trey Lowe, and Kai Wilshaw. Tonight on the show,
I would give them the hardest exercise class that I was capable of doing on the lightest possible spring load with 0 breath cues.
Yeah, we'll find out what on earth she's on about.
And we'll find out what you, the viewers, have chosen for the scrap.
and we're going to tell you why a record number of over 60s are being treated, get this, as terrorists with a top expert.
Also, it's time for another food bank haul. What did my family of... No! No!
Oh my goodness.
Triggered tantrums. And...
we ain't got no troubles, no reason to complain. Cause here in Great Old Britain, we just love it when it rains.
Morning. Yes, it's the advert everybody is talking about.
Oh, we all are, trust me. It's 7 p.m. and this is the Saturday 5. Welcome to the Saturday 5. We have got a massive show coming up for you this hour, including a new batch of those triggered tantrums. You just saw some of them there. They are brilliant this week. We're also going to be discussing that news that I was just telling you about there. A record number of older people are being referred to PREVENT programme, which is the government's anti-terror scheme for alleged extreme right-wing views. And badly behaved Brits abroad. We will reveal the most annoying things we'll do on holiday. And of course, as ever, I try to read out more than anybody else on this channel. I want to hear what you say. gbnews.com/yoursay. But before we start tearing each other apart, it's your Saturday Night News with Katie Bowen.
Good
Good evening. Your latest news headlines from the GB newsroom. Several demonstrators have been detained by police after rival groups gathered at a protest against the use of migrant hotels. That's as there are reports tonight that the Home Secretary is set to announce a new scheme to tackle the asylum backlog. The Metropolitan Police imposed conditions on a protest and counter-protest outside the Thistle City Barbican Hotel in Islington, North London. Officers detained several individuals and earlier, people believed to be migrants watched the protests from the hotel's windows. A protest and counter-protest has also taken place in Newcastle, outside the New Bridge Hotel. It comes as the Times newspaper reports that the Home Secretary is set to launch a new fast-track scheme to tackle the asylum backlog. Yvette Cooper is expected to introduce new legislation this autumn to overhaul the appeal system. Leader of the Conservative Party, Kemi Badenoch, told GB News that the government don't understand the scale of the issue.
We have a policy to deport all foreign criminals, no ifs, no buts. We need to make sure that we hold the government to account so that they get it. They really don't. They don't seem to think that there's a problem. London is Labour-led. Sadiq Khan is the Mayor of London. Most of the MPs in London are Labour. They are not serving the population. If people who are not from our country are committing crimes, it's not just about prison. We need to get them out as quickly as possible.
Elsewhere, a 76-year-old man has been remanded in custody after appearing at Leicester Magistrates Court charged with child cruelty offences. John Reuben from Nottingham has been charged with 3 counts of the willful ill-treatment of a child after several children fell unwell at a summer camp in Leicestershire. 8 children from the camp near Melton Mowbray were taken to hospital as a precaution and all have since returned home. Mr Reuben will appear at Leicester Crown Court later this month. Hamas says that it will not disarm unless an independent Palestinian state is established. The announcement comes as President Trump's Middle East envoy has met with the families of Israeli hostages being held in Gaza. Protesters in Tel Aviv clapped and chanted "Bring them home now" as Steve Witkoff walked around surrounded by security. Mr Witkoff also visited aid sites in Gaza run by the US and Israeli-backed group, the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, with the aim of bringing more food to those in the enclave. And President Donald Trump has ordered 2 nuclear submarines to be positioned in what he described as the appropriate regions. He said he was responding to comments made online by a former Russian President, Dmitry Medvedev, which President Trump described as highly provocative. The former president, who's now a deputy chair of Russia's Security Council, said US threats of tough sanctions over its war in Ukraine were a step towards war, adding that Moscow has Soviet-era nuclear capabilities as a last resort. Those are the latest GB News headlines for now. More news throughout the evening.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Yes, welcome back to the Saturday 5, Saturday's biggest TV show on the UK's #1 news channel. How about that, hey? Yeah, indeed. What a brilliant week it's been for free speech all over the country. I'm Alex Armstrong, of course, and I can promise you're in for a very, very lively hour this hour. And the results are in for the Saturday scrap. Here's how you voted. 27% of you voted for whether religious education has gone too far. 27% of you also voted as to whether we should stop work due to anxiety, which means 47% of you voted for should Brits challenge crime. Let's crack on with tonight's main event. Yes, the Shadow Home Secretary, Chris Philp, says it's reasonable for the public to call out and expose criminality where it occurs as long as it's safe to do so. Mr Philp spoke to our political editor, Chris Hope.
I think people should do. It's risky, isn't it, if you become vigilantes in our own country?
Well, I think it's just part of the job for me to try and expose these things.
Should other people do the same as you? Take on wrongdoing?
So I think
film it?
I think people should be calling out wrongdoing, actually. Okay. I mean, it's up to them to decide whether they feel it's safe, and that's for each person to make a judgment. But I think it's reasonable for the public to call out and expose criminality where it occurs.
Put your camera on, film it.
For example,
yeah, and just say, why have you walked through behind me in this gate, in this tailgating me in a transport situation?
Yeah,
or
yes, I agree. I think
violence.
I think exposing that kind of thing is important.
So, should the public challenge criminality? Seconds out, it's round one.
Thank you, Alex. They should do more than challenge criminality. They should actively try and stop it. But the problem is that we have created a culture where good men are scared to do the right thing. And at the same time, we have created a culture where we prioritise the rights of evil men over good Samaritans. There are too many stories that we have heard in the recent days, weeks, months and years of people who have gone in trying to help a particular situation or save a particular woman or save a child, and they're the ones who end up getting punished by a state who somehow think that the rights of an evil criminal take precedence over that particular person. It's not just a UK thing, by the way, it's a global thing. You saw the Daniel Penny saga in New York to realise that this is so fundamentally out of whack. The reality is that we still do, as good men, and I do say the word men deliberately because when there are instances of crime on the streets, there is a duty, if you are a chivalrous man, to go up and try and defend people who are vulnerable. There are instances where that is still absolutely and totally necessary. Number one, because that should be your first priority. But number two, because the police have abrogated that responsibility. They're too busy policing tweets. They're too busy going off and doing anything other than actually the bread and butter work of reducing crime in our major cities, which are currently skyrocketing. I would love to see a world, and I'd love to see a United Kingdom, where we get back to a period where bad blokes get belted and good blokes go in to actually do the belting.
No. Will, let me just set the record straight here. You've just heard that the police are too busy to police violent crime. That is not true. Violent crime, in particular in the UK and, by the way, in the US, have been trending downward for 3 decades. But, you're right, there is a bit of a crime paradox in Britain at the minute. That's because very visible offences, like shoplifting, like phone thefts, are indeed on the rise. But for you to take horrible, horrible examples of assault, of rape, of violent theft in the UK and tell people that that is happening more and more and trying to signal people towards who to blame and saying that they should take matters into their own hands is completely wrong. Now, you know, Robert Jenrick going around trying to call out people running through the tube barriers, Tom Harwood's own work in cleaning up graffiti, that, I think, is fair game. That's something that Brits do anyway. They clean up their own side of the street and they keep it clean. But this idea that violent crimes are on the rise and that people should do something about it is a slippery slope and it's only actually going to end up, weirdly, to an uptick in crime, Will.
Kai, you're looking at your notes, you're not really listening to me. The simple reality is we've all seen, on the tube, for example, if you live in London, there are instances where women are being harassed by men and there are men who are too scared to actually go up and intervene. And I would suggest the reason they are too scared to intervene is not necessarily because they wouldn't, it is because that they are scared that they are the ones who would then be called the perpetrator in that situation. Often, and I hasten to admit, it is because they will be called a racist if that is part of the paradigm in that situation. We need to change that dynamic where good men can actually go and protect people.
OK, let's bring it out to the rest of the panel here. Chloe, I'll start with you because Joe here has said this in response to Will. He said, so I just want to check, Will, you can respond to this actually if you want to because it's about you. So I just want to check, Will wants us to pay taxes and then do the police's job ourselves. No thanks, I'm not going to get stabbed for someone dodging a train fare, thank you.
Yeah.
What do you make of that comment?
Yeah.
The police need to do their job better. I'm not saying that they don't, but I'm saying that there are instances now where we need to step up in instances of danger, but that will only happen if we create a culture where that is embraced, as opposed to saying, well, no, you're the bad guy for stepping into this situation.
Chloe, are we at risk here with what Chris is saying? And listen, we all know crime is spiralling out of control. There's some commentators who think it's all absolutely humpty-dory, but it's not, is it? Are we getting to this sort of worry that there's this sort of like snooper force, like get people to spy on your neighbours? This is where it could lead to, surely.
Very British.
I think there's quite a difference between saying spy on your neighbours, call the police if you notice they've got a friend round for a glass of wine during lockdown, right? And
because that's where it went, didn't it? That's where it went to.
Exactly, and saying I'm going to step in when I see someone committing a crime. And I think you've got to use your common sense about it, right? So, for example, if I see a guy doing something he shouldn't be doing and I look at the guy and he's like 6 foot plus tall, looks like he's a fighter, huge muscles, I probably think I'm not going to risk it this time, right? But if it's just some, you know, small lady and I think, oh, I can easily, if she's shoplifting, I'm willing to risk, trying to take the stuff out of her hands, I'll step in.
Okay.
Right? And I think there are two sides to this. Yes, on the one hand, absolutely, police need to do their jobs better. They should be policing the streets, not our tweets. But on the other hand, we're never going to be in a society where there are police absolutely everywhere, always in sight. And I think that there are lots of cases where men should step in, even if it's just having a word saying, listen, mate, that's not appropriate if a guy is harassing a girl on the tube. And people aren't doing that because I think Will is right that men are scared that they are going to be called the perpetrators and the person who is doing the harassing called the victim if they were to step in and it were to be escalated to the police.
Trey?
Do you know, I agree with so much that Will said, apart from one bit at the end that he said. But I think Will's right. I think there's something about men stepping up and sort of being men, and especially when they see wrongdoing happening against women, I think we should be stepping up and doing that as a society. I think something's broken that we don't instinctively do that for fear of getting stabbed, which is completely understandable.
That's really interesting. But what do you think it is that's broken? What does it feel like to you?
I just think we're so divided. People don't really care. People are like, none of my business. And another part of it is just fear, isn't it? It's kind of fear of being harmed, but there's not this instinctiveness of I see something wrong happening and I'll do it. So part of what Will said is true. I think sometimes people can find themselves in all heaps of trouble when they do it. But I just don't understand why Will made the cultural thing of being considered racist, almost by saying the perpetrator is probably going to be someone of colour.
I never said that. Can I explain that?
Explain what you meant by that.
Because we've seen plenty of examples in this country where crimes have not been addressed or not been intervened because people are scared of being called racist. The main example is the grooming gang scandal, where police, individuals were worried that they would be called racist if they intervened. That is, whether you like it or not, that is a cultural phenomenon.
That's slightly different because that would be a crime that you'd have to see happen.
And that crime
is a little bit different.
Maybe one of you will remember the details of the place where the lady was shoplifting, the shopkeeper intervened, and there were these huge protests saying, oh, it was racist for the shopkeeper to have intervened when the woman was clearly shoplifting.
Do you know what it throws me back to? And I don't want a discussion about this, but we saw what happened at Manchester Airport, where the footage was a bit misleading to begin with, and actually what it looked like was the police were in the wrong, and then actually, more footage has come out, and now maybe perhaps they're in the wrong. And so this is what I worry about when we sort of encourage people to get too involved. What if they come at the wrong moment in time and we demonise somebody? Because we do live in a society now where you trial by social media.
It should still be instinctive. I think Will's right about that. It should still be a case, and you might think it's patronising I say it, but it was a woman police officer. The guy's bigger and stronger than her. Instinctively, as a man, you should want to go there and stop him. It doesn't mean you're going to harm him, but he shouldn't be striking a woman like that. Stop him and then realise what's going on. I think that's what's died in society.
Kai?
Yeah,
I mean, all these dangerous crimes that we've talked about are still in decline. That is just a fact. Crime is not spiralling out of control.
Well, knife crime is up in London, and so is things like shoplifting, so is things like rape. They are up. I'm not saying potentially across the whole country, but in cities that are like London, they are.
Yeah, right? But I do genuinely think that Brits have traditionally and still intervene when they can, when they use their common sense, as Chloe says. But, the slippery slope here, if we start taking matters into our own hands, and, I really think this is a world of chaos that we're entering into if we start letting that slide.
Yeah, there is a danger of that. Although I do think one area, I don't know if you guys would agree with me, there's been a lot of vigilantism when it comes to paedophile catches and things like that. Yes. I think on the whole, we can probably agree that's been quite a good thing.
Well,
in many ways. Absolutely. But that police would never
Trial by social media, you just mentioned it. Really, who are you trusting? Who are you entrusting to understand all the facts and to make these judgments about people?
Someone's got to do something.
Would ruin somebody's life, right?
True. Yeah.
And they don't have all the facts that the police have. Now, yes, I agree, horrible, obscene crimes. But, anybody can be putting those videos up and claiming that somebody's a paedophile.
When they've arranged with someone posing as a 12-year-old girl or something, and that person turns up to meet that girl, I think in that instance it's right. You're getting a paedophile off the street.
But who's behind the camera?
Doesn't matter. You're getting somebody off the street.
It actually really matters.
Just to bring this back to Will, because I think, look, when we bring back this whole conversation, it's about actually where is the line for the average citizen? Or what do you think that line is, Will?
It's a very difficult question to say. I think that's probably a very, very broad question to say. But I think if you were to say a line, I'd say less a sentiment across our ruling class, which says we are going to prioritise the good guys over the bad guys. And now I know that sounds almost vague, but I think everyone here kind of knows what I'm talking about, that too often, across a range of policy areas, including crime, it gets the sense that you are prioritising the bad guys over the people who are trying to do the right thing.
Yeah, Chloe?
I think that you should judge based on who is the person you're dealing with, what is the crime that you're dealing with, and yourself. So, I mean, for example, I'm self-defence trained. I know how to take a knife off someone. I'm more likely to rightly step in than someone who's had no training whatsoever.
Sure.
Right? So you've got to judge it. I mean, for example, a few weeks ago when I was on the way into the studios, I popped into Sainsbury's and I saw someone shoplifting. And the lady was trying to stop the guy and I thought, oh, should I grab him? Should I try and stop him?
Yeah.
But I thought, oh, he's only got about £5 worth of stuff on him, so it's not worth the risk.
Yeah, totally
so
right. Totally
you've
right.
got to use your common sense.
Yeah, be careful what you do out there, guys. In a few minutes, though, I'll be joined by a counter-terrorism expert to get his reaction to the news that a record number of older people are being investigated for what are described as extreme right-wing views, and will have trigger tantrums.
It's time for another food bank haul. What did my family of... No!
Oh, yes, they're exceptionally tasty this week. But, of course, we will speak to that expert on counter-terrorism on that big news that the 60-year-olds are being on record being recommended to the Prevent scheme. Absolutely bonkers stuff. Stay with us on the Saturday 5 Live on GB News.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You've read the headlines, you've heard what those in power have to say. How about now we actually get to the truth?
They would pay attention.
We go beyond the political theatre and tell you what's really going on behind the scenes. For a massive council tax hike, one of the biggest in the UK. Others follow their lines, but we go off script.
You sound like a broken record, you say that week after week.
Cutting through the narratives and giving you unique perspectives. That's Ben Leo tonight, Saturdays and Sundays from 9 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk
No,
now?
that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to the Saturday 5. Well, shocking story here. A record number of people aged 60 or older have been referred to the government's anti-terrorism scheme for alleged extreme right-wing views. 127 people in their 60s or over were referred to Prevent between 2023 and 2024. And 43 of them were on the list for what were described as extreme right right-wing views. Well, to talk about this, I'm joined by Chris Phillips, who's the former head of the National Counter-Terrorism and Security Office. Chris, thank you very much for joining us tonight. Talk us through what kind of circumstances would lead up to 60-year-olds being placed on a scheme that many people would say was possibly to combat extreme terrorism, not potentially social media posts.
Yeah, well, people are being told that they should report people for extreme views, but of course, one man's extremism is another man's mainstream views. And this is the issue. Where is the bar set as to someone having extreme views or not? And of course, whether those views are likely to tip over into someone doing something really bad. And I think this is the issue, and the issue is one that the public, general public, I think a vast majority of the public are disillusioned with what government have done. And because of that, you are getting people becoming more and more frustrated and airing their views in public. And of course, if people are told to report that to the Prevent, then that's what's happening.
Yeah, Chris, I'm going to pass it over to my panel because everyone here would love to ask you a question, so I don't want to waffle too much. Will?
Yeah, Chris, you mentioned that the public is disillusioned there. I would suggest that one reason the public is disillusioned is because that they feel like the threat of Islamic terrorism is being talked down by bodies like this, and the threat of far-right extremism is being talked up, which is disproportionate to what's happening in the real world. Do you agree with that? And if so, is this particular case an example of that bias?
Well, I definitely do agree with you. 75% of the work of MI5 is extreme Islamic terrorism. And what we see with that form of terrorism is people going out and committing mass murder. And of course, that's far worse than people getting very upset about immigration. I think the trouble is with these figures, of course, people are reported and the Prevent stream have to deal with what they get. Now, just because someone's reported to the Prevent stream, that doesn't mean to say any action will be taken. It's simply a case of them being reported.
Yeah, Chloe?
Yeah, just off the back of that, these people who are being reported to Prevent, do you know if in most cases where you've got, say, some pensioner being referred to them, that they're just looking at it and going, oh, this is a load of nonsense, I'm throwing it out? Or are you genuinely getting pensioners being interrogated for, say, their anti-immigration viewpoints and taken really seriously by Prevent?
Well, I don't know that, to be quite honest. I don't know the answer to that question. But what I do know is that any sensible police officer or Prevent would know the difference between someone that's concerned and airing their views about immigration and the difference between that and someone that's looking to commit terrorist acts in the UK. So I would hope, common sense prevails. That these cases, whilst they're reported, they're dealt with correctly and not taken too far.
Kai?
Yeah, I think common sense has prevailed, hasn't it? I mean, the numbers we're talking about here are minuscule. It's 43 over 60s being referred to Prevent for extreme right-wing views. Isn't this really making a mountain out of a molehill, making this story as such as it is?
Well, I mean, it is a small number of people. What we have seen, of course, is widespread or, concern about immigration. And I think we are in a situation, I would suggest that riots only happen in the summertime. We're now in the summertime. And I think there is real concern about people getting so frustrated with government, so frustrated with the current situation, that they do take their sort of law into their own hands. And we could see breakouts of violence. So I think it is something that needs to be taken seriously, but it's not in the same ballpark as what we've seen with the Islamic extreme terrorism.
Trey.
Hey Chris, Trey here. I'm just wondering, obviously you said 75% of it has been Islamic terrorism. Do you envisage a future at some point where potentially people who feel so disgruntled over here get so upset by everything that they do take matters into their own hands and we do have terror type attacks against migrant hostels or something in the future?
Well, we have seen it. Let's be quite frank. We've seen individuals go and commit acts of terrorism. Finsbury Park Mosque, you might remember a few years ago, I was there after it had happened. And, someone had driven up from Wales to attack people there. So we do see it from time to time. And that's why the police have to take it seriously. The security services have to monitor it. And where people are getting out of hand, then they need to be dealt with. But, in the list of concerns, of risks then it's much further down the line than we've seen with the extreme examples of Islamic terrorism.
OK, Chris Phillips there, the former head of National Counter-Terrorism and Security Office. Thank you very much for giving us your expert perspective on that story there. I want to open this up to my panel here so we can keep the conversation going. Will, do you know what bothers me, particularly about things like Prevent, is I think they're relatively useless. When we look at what Axel Rudy Cabana was referred to that programme, they failed to stop him. It says to me that actually these programmes are not focusing on the correct thing. But do you think I'm right in saying that?
Yeah, I think you are. And look, I think Kai is right, and that the number is quite small. I agree with that. But I think we all in our mind have that, and I can't remember when was it. What the bloke was, his house was opened up by the police, and he had Brexity things.
Yes, Brexity things
on his wall.
Douglas Murray books and things like that.
Yeah. I think that is the image that we all have in our minds, and it goes to an ideological capture of these institutions where they are inherently more likely to think about the real evil being from the far right as opposed to being from Islamic extremism, which statistically is a much greater threat in this country.
Do you think, Chloe, with things like the online safety bill passing, where there's potentially this expanding of the rules as to what can be deemed sort of offensive or harmful to people, that's censored, that people will see that, or at least people who are perhaps on the extreme left that think anything that's mildly right-wing is extreme right-wing? Do you think that's going to embolden them?
Yeah, I think if the state starts to define what is extremism and what's not extremism to the point where they're potentially saying, as we saw earlier, talking about what is in the online safety bill, that it looks like illegal migration, talk of that is considered some sort of extreme, very harmful thing to say, then that is going to lead people on the left to think, well, Keir Starmer or the government and Whitehall have said this, therefore that is some sort of extremist, terrorist kind of point of view.
Yeah, Trey, Jack here has just said on your say, far right is thrown about so much these days that it means nothing anymore. It seems like you can be branded far right or fascist just for having a different opinion to the government. I think there's a lot of people who feel that way.
Yeah, I think it's true, and that's what I love about what GB News does. And like I said, I've said it again and again, I sit on the seat and I do not agree with a lot of what I hear, but I love that the conversation is actually happening because something needs to actually be out there in the open. I think most people are just frustrated. I think that's the truth. Most people are just frustrated. However, I do understand, though, the concerns about far right, because look at the history of Europe. I mean, literally, we've lost millions and millions of people, so there needs to be some sort of watch on it, but it needs to be just done in terms of balance. There's not enough leadership. I think that's the problem. That's why sometimes I think I challenge what Will says. I think there's not enough leadership that brings everyone together. We all want to see a reduction in votes. We all want to see the economy improve, but it's how we go about it. Do we want to use inflammatory language where it demonises massive amounts of people who are not migrants, or do we want to do it in a way we bring everyone together? I think that's my concern, and that's where it comes from.
I think we also just need to define what is far right, because nobody can ever answer that question. Anyway, a Home Office spokesperson has said this. Since it first came into existence 2 decades ago, the Prevent programme has dealt with a wide range of individuals where concerns have been raised about their potential radicalisation. The makeup of individuals referred to the Prevent programme may change over time, but the role of the programme in stopping people from becoming terrorists remains the same. The number of referrals might include individuals who have been reported more than once during the year. All right, still to come.
I would give them the hardest exercise class that I was capable of doing on the lightest possible spring load with 0 breath cues.
OK, that's triggered tantrums coming up, but next.
We ain't got no troubles, no reason to complain. 'Cause here in Great Old Britain, we just love it when it rains.
Morning. Is everything really fine in Britain? Find out next. Of course, you're here with the Saturday 5 live on GB News.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
Whilst the UK gears up for Storm Floris, it turns increasingly hot in Portugal, although there'll be some heavy rain in Croatia and Italy, particularly the central part of Italy. Thunderstorms expected here, thunderstorms moving through parts of Croatia and Bosnia. But for much of Iberia, it's sunny spells and increased heat. Higher temperatures than average for much of Portugal. And that's expected to continue into the start of next week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
Hi there, and welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. We've got more changeable weather on the way for Sunday, some rain for many of us, but also some sunshine following from the north later. But then for Monday, it's all attention out towards the west. Here comes Storm Floris moving across the Atlantic on Sunday afternoon, deepening as it becomes a very deep area of low pressure for the time of year and bringing some very strong winds to the north of the UK on Monday. But back to Saturday evening, we have got this area of cloud and rain pushing in across Northern Ireland and Scotland, slowly working its way southeastwards across the UK through the course of tonight. Some fairly low cloud developing, so some mist and hill fog as well, and quite humid conditions in the west. Clearer and slightly cooler down across the southeast. It does mean, though, that if you are in the south and the east of the UK, we should get off to a fairly bright, if not sunny, start to the day on Sunday. So do make the most of that sunshine. It's not going to last too long. Further north and west, we run into that cloud and some outbreaks of rain. Some areas of low clouds, so misty conditions around the coast and certainly some hill fog around as well. Some heavier outbreaks of rain in places too, and quite a wet start to the day across more eastern parts of Scotland in particular. Out towards the northwest, though, of Scotland and Northern Ireland, already turning brighter here, and those brighter, sunnier conditions will work their way slowly southeastwards as we go through the course of the day. Even in the south, though, we probably won't see a huge amount of rain getting towards the south of England until very late on, and even then, just the odd shower. Perhaps the odd heavier shower and even thunderstorm across the northeast of Scotland, but here there will be some sunshine, and it should feel pleasantly warm in that sunshine, with temperatures into the low 20s for many of us. A very wet and windy picture, though, for Monday, especially across the northwest, so a weather warning already in place across Scotland, Northern Ireland, Northern England and the far north of Wales. Some damaging gusts of wind, so do stay tuned to the forecast. We could see some disruption. Even in the south, it will be fairly windy for the time of year. A changeable week of weather on the way, but generally settling down somewhat on Tuesday and Wednesday, and temperatures around average for the time of year.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to the Saturday 5. We love your views here on the show, gbnews.com/your say. And while you're there, put some questions in for Ask the Five. I've been collecting them. They're coming up. It's coming up rapidly. 8 o'clock. We're going to get loads of your comments out there, as well as some of your videos that you've sent in too. But now it's time for this. Yes, it is other news of the week. And Will is going to kick us off for Bunch of Five.
Yeah. I will, Alex, with an ad, the type of which I have literally never seen before. This is Coinbase, a cryptocurrency exchange assessing the state of modern Britain. Let's see it.
We ain't got no troubles, no reason to complain. Cause here in great old Britain, we just love it when it rains.
Morning.
We're cosy here at home, even though it's not our own. But wait a few more years and who can say everything is just fine. Everything is grand. Your life can get no better when you're living by the letter in this pleasant land.
I've never seen a company blast a country that it is operating in. So what they're basically saying, guys, is, well, we're a crypto exchange. The economy in the broader country is stuffed. And so therefore, get your money out of traditional banks and put them into crypto. And I think it touches on something which we all feel. I think it's sad, it's kind of funny. I have mixed feelings about this, I must say.
Well, I actually tried to get in touch with the CEO of Coinbase, because this is from a company called Coinbase who published this, to ask them, because they said that they were not allowed to broadcast this on national television, which was very interesting.
It's a social media strategy.
It could very well be. So I won't speculate as to why, but I'm sure viewers at home may have their own take on this. But Kai, it's quite... this sort of message will penetrate through to the public, won't it?
Yeah, well, it's a bit like the Jaguar ad that we kept discussing a few months ago, right? The companies are
It's the
increasingly...
antithesis of it, isn't it?
Well, no, but anything to get attention on social media means that people watch ads and they relate to them, and that's exactly what this is.
But sorry, can I just interrupt? Alex, you're right, it is the opposite, because one is brutal honesty and one is brutal dishonesty. But one was saying a world which doesn't really exist, whereas that, unfortunately, is the world that does exist.
But both got attention.
But both got attention, that's true.
That's what matters.
All right.
Well, Jaguar CEO just resigned and they're sales plummeting, so yes and no, mate.
Yeah, go woke, go broke. Chloe, what's your bunch of 5?
Well, there is a big rumour circulating around Westminster. The left are really getting desperate. The Reform Party is going up and up in the polls, and they've run out of policy ideas to try and get rid of Farage, and it hasn't worked. So, first of all, we had Peter Kyle, unless you've been living under a rock, you'll be aware, tried to associate Nigel Farage with the prolific paedophile Jimmy Savile. And now they're circulating rumours, I hear both Labour and Tory MPs, that Nigel Farage is ill. They're trying to act as though he's on his deathbed and it's his last few days on this earth and he won't be able to save us in 2029. But Nigel Farage has, of course, hit back and said it's a load of nonsense and they're just desperate.
Yeah, well, that's interesting, isn't it? Because it always resorts to personal attacks when they've run out of things to say, doesn't it? That's my experience with it. Trey, what do you make of it all?
I mean, it points to the same thing I said, isn't it? It's lack of leadership. I mean, rather than focus on leadership, you're focusing on tackling a potential political opponent. I think if other leaders just focus on leadership, they wouldn't even care about Nigel Farage, you know?
Yeah, absolutely agree. Kai, run out of ideas?
Well, Farage did the same thing about Joe Biden, these kind of ad hominem attacks.
He was right.
But that's neither here nor there.
Joe Biden wouldn't be the president.
And his political hero, Donald Trump, always is out there insulting his opponents. I mean, really, we're not going to take lectures
normally
on Farage.
right as well.
Alex, by the way, apparently the PM's office actually greenlit this. I just thought this was a stupid comment off the cuff from that idiot, and yet actually this was pre-planned. It is extraordinary how bad these people are at politics.
It really is, isn't it? Well, I'll move us on to the next story here because this will make you laugh at home. There's a whole... well, obviously, you all know, part of the migrant crisis, a big country that has been involved in this is Albania. And there's now a whole village in Albania where there has been such a mass exodus of men that women are now running it. And I believe the village is called Has, H-A-S. It's home to just 5,000 residents. It's witnessed an outflow of its male population seeking work opportunities abroad. So school leavers now bid farewell to teachers with "see you in London" rather than the traditional parting words. What does that tell you, hey? What does that tell you? It tells you this whole thing is a massive farce and a joke. And I'm glad at least we are starting to support some Albanians because we know they should not, definitely not be here under any circumstances. Not that any of them should. But yes, what do you make of it, Will?
Proud moment for the United Kingdom. A, we're increasing DI initiatives in other countries. B, my understanding is that 1 in 5 Albanians in the UK have been arrested, so we're making that country safer. What a wonderful initiative from us to improve the lives of Albanians, obviously at our expense. But what a wonderful initiative.
Well, Kai, what do you make of this? Besmara, who's a local female resident, described feeling depressed alongside many women in her community. She told the Daily Mail, emigration of men destroys family bonds, families are torn apart. I'm guessing it will crash the birth rate. This is terrible, isn't it? We should deport them back to Albania.
Well, I think it's a Netflix drama waiting for happen, that's for sure. I'd love to see the intrigues of local politics under this clan of women, actually. I don't think it's so bad.
I am sure there's a few select men who are very happy about this news, who might still live in the town of Has.
I mean, this is really common that you'll have men leave countries and go illegally to places like Britain, and they'll tell their wives and their family, don't worry, I'll call for you when I get there, and you'll all be able to come and join me, and then they arrive and they never call.
But I thought it was just women and children on the boats.
Yeah. Well, that's what Diana Jones would say.
All right, let's move on. Trey, what's your bunch of 5 this week?
So my bunch of 5 this week is get ready, everyone. You're going to be working a very, very, very long time. So 2/3 of Brits expect to wait much longer for the state pension, and they think they're going to be working to the age of 70. That's 69%. Believe the state pension age will rise to 69. It's a weird one, isn't it, really? Because in one way, it reflects the fact that we're a lot healthier than we've ever been before, and then people in their, late 60s, 70s tend to be way healthier than they were a couple of generations ago. But it kind of also means as well, people who generally want to retire, especially people who are doing really hard work, are going to have to carry on for a much longer time. I'm actually on the fence when it comes to this one. In some ways, it's a good thing. It keeps people active. We all know when people retire, their odds of death actually go up. On the one hand, that's a good thing. But on the other hand, it's like people who've worked hard all their life going to wait a lot longer for what really they've worked and earned, you know?
Yeah, what do you make of all that, Kai?
I'm excited because I'm told I look 20 at the minute, so yeah, bring it on, 50 more years. But yeah, no, honestly, people are living longer, healthier lives, and I think it's a great thing. Let's celebrate it, and if people want to keep working, let them work.
This isn't a health initiative, guys. The fact is we've got more debt than any other time in human history, and we can't pay pensions. That's the issue. They're not trying to get 70-year-olds out going for a war. It is a fact that this country is going broke. Tom Harwood's been very good on this. GBNews' Tom Harwood. He said, I'm fully aware that I'm never going to get a pension as a 30-something-year-old male.
Yeah.
They're not going to happen because of the economic vandalism of the current generation.
No, because the welfare state was built
has happened
for a different era.
over, in my opinion, over two governments, and I blame the new Labour government of the 90s and the early 2000s, and of course the Tories for the last 14 years of absolute chaos. Absolute chaos. It was a disaster for this country.
But guys, be honest though. How are we going to fix the demographic of an aging?
Okay, well, guys, look, let's move on, or we won't hear.
Enough seriousness. Over in Italy, Giorgia Meloni's party and a councillor called Joe Formaggio has served up an anti-communist risotto, which is in response to anti-fascist pasta that he sees making the rounds on social media, using food as a political tool. Maybe we should take a leaf out of Joe Formaggio's book. What do we think? Star Malade on toast is something I put down. Beef welling Tories. You know, maybe our political leaders can take food on and.
But I mean, what is it about the risotto that makes it anti-communist?
Like,
is there like a hammer and sickle with?
I think there is just a risotto there, whereas a communist risotto there would be no food.
You stole the joke right from me.
I bet they bought the rice in a private supermarket.
Well, according to Joe Formaggio, friends sent me the propagandist images of leftists eating sauceless pasta, and I thought, we have to do something. So you're not wrong, Will. It is sort of what you're saying.
OK, right. Well, still to come tonight.
It's time for another food bank haul. What did my family of... No!
Oh, yes, it's triggered tantrums. Up next, trust me, you're not going to want to miss these ones. They are a shocking bunch this week. You're the Saturday 5. Stay with us till after the break.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m.
Only on GB News.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
Rafe, I'm assuming the notion of dropping Winnie to replace him with a tranny fills you full of repulsion.
Yes, I personally, as a Churchill historian, would love Churchill to be on the notes permanently. But yes, this is just part of this continuing war on our history that we often discuss on this channel. It's a long war, and it's just basically another attempt to gradually, or not so gradually actually, erase or rewrite our history. And the imagery on banknotes, on our passports, and the coins and stamps and all those sorts of things, they've traditionally always served to inspire pride in the nation. And those are really powerful symbols of our sovereignty and our identity. And it speaks a lot to, of course, to the changing fads and this desire we now see by our institutions, including the Bank of England, to create a new British identity, which is completely severed from the past.
I wonder, Rafe, we've had this conversation before. I wonder if a lot of this now is starting to feel a bit deliberate. Like, they know that Winston Churchill is worshipped and adored as one of the greatest ever Brits. They know we cherish the Union flag. They know we cherish our national anthems. Is that specifically why you think they're targeted?
That's precisely why it's being targeted. It's just that's what this is all about. The Bank of England is just part of this long march through the institution. The Bank of England, remember, in its new Bank of England Museum, well, it has a permanent exhibition on slavery. And we need to understand that the elites who control our institutions bear no comparison to the generations that occupied those institutions. They're cuckoos in the nest. They're embarrassed by Britain's history and its historical figures. And what these people used to understand love of nation, and they've replaced that with national self-loathing.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave. I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Yes, we did it.
Thank you for making us Britain's #1 news channel. We couldn't have done it without you.
Absolutely not. It is down to each and every single one of you who chooses to watch us, to listen to us, and to be a part of what we're trying to do. Thank you.
This is just the beginning. Britain's #1 news channel.
Welcome back to the Saturday 5, everybody. Yes, Britain's #1 news channel. Don't you love that promo? That's great, isn't it?
Officially.
Yeah, there we go. Coming up from 8 p.m. is Ask the 5. I have loads of your questions saved up here, and we've got a special Ask the 5 for you. A special guest has sent a video in, so we'll be seeing that too. Get them in, gbnews.com/yoursay. But now it's time for Triggered Tantrums. We collate well, I guess the biggest losers of the week is what I'd say. We pull them all together into one lovely part of this show for you. Will is going to kick us off.
We don't have the fun little graphic?
What little graphic?
You know, normally
we don't have a little graphic. Yeah, have you ever spin on this show before? There is no graphic for this show.
Oh, OK. All right, well, in any case...
You never think you'll hear it, do you? Get with it.
No, let's be serious. I understand that the situation in the Middle East is dire. I understand emotions are heated. I think there are ways that you can talk about this in a particularly intelligent, logical, compassionate way. Let's see an example of that.
It's time for another food bank haul. What did my family of... No! 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 Because hundreds of thousands of people are starving! Babies and mothers and grandfathers are starving to death!
Oh, my goodness.
Oh.
You know what? I just
lost for words.
Do you know what does it take for somebody to set their phone down and go? Do you know what? I'm going to record this and I'm going to put it publicly on the internet for everybody to see.
Yeah, a part of me does wonder whether it is just clickbait stuff, but another part of me goes the left, emotionalised talking about political discussion in a way that the right just doesn't, and that is why they are not guided by intellect. They are guided by silly kind of, emotional responses.
Yeah, Kai.
Can I please? It's the American left. It won't have missed the attention of our viewers that most of these videos are lunatic lefties in America who seem to love screaming at their phone for whatever reason. Doesn't shower the left with glory.
I can't wait till we start getting some content from the Fruit and Nut Party to add to this section because I'm pretty sure there'll be plenty.
Well, being right-wing makes you happier. There was some research done recently in the US, I can't remember exactly who did it, where they looked at loads of different areas of your life and defined how fulfilled you are, how happy you are in each area of your life. And Conservatives came on top of Liberals by quite a big margin on every single measure that they looked at. So being right-wing makes you happy, guys.
Because Liberals are always chasing this utopia that will never reach them, whereas the right are more pragmatic and realistic.
All right, Chloe, what have you got for us?
Well, I don't understand how a girl looking hot in some jeans has caused the whole internet and all the lefties to completely lose it. And take a listen to what this Pilates teacher had to say about anyone involved in that Sydney Sweeney advert for American Eagle.
If anyone from American Eagle who was involved in the creation of Sydney Sweeney's most recent advertisement booked into my Pilates class, I would give them the hardest exercise class that I was capable of doing on the lightest possible spring load with 0 breath cues.
It's the politics of jealousy, isn't it? It's pure jealousy. It's pure. I'm so pleased to see hot ads are back. I was so sick of seeing, no offence to plus-size people, but I don't want to see plus-size people advertising underwear. I'm not going to buy that underwear. You've just made it really unsexy, right?
Well, I mean, Victoria's Secret, they actually experimented with having all these plus-size models and their sales went massively down and they realised that actually sexy sells. I mean, it's
It
common
does.
sense. I mean,
Who would have thought
they realised it ages ago in the movie industry that sex sells, and you know, clearly that disappeared, and now it's back.
True.
But the left just can't take it.
What do you think of? What do you think?
I've seen this, and I can't fully get my head around it fully. I know some people are obviously upset because it sort of screams sort of eugenics and sort of racial superiority because she's talking about genes, etc.
But she does have great genetics. We can't lie. She's a beautiful woman. What's the problem with saying?
It feels a bit American to me. I think Americans take their polarisation to another level. I've seen an advert. They're trying to be funny and tongue-in-cheek, and that's all I see. I think it's a bit of a storm in a teacup. I don't understand why people are so upset by it.
Yeah,
I think it's a great ad.
Just disgruntled people on the internet, isn't it? That's all it ever is. All right, well, I've got a special little tantrum for you here. Why don't you take a look at this?
My name is Pink and I'm really glad to meet you. You're recommended to me by some people. Hey, ooh, is this illegal? Hey, ooh, it feels illegal.
Panel can't see this video, but basically what it is it's brutally mocking Spikiest for being a dictator like Putin, for agreeing that we should have online censorship and sort of dictatorial powers over the internet. Only things you would ever see in Russia. And of course, those of you at home who have ever watched Spitting Image, it is brutal about the politicians we have of our time. Kai, this is pretty accurate, right?
No, it's offensive. It's
of course
so
you'd be
offensive.
by that, wouldn't you?
Let me get to the point. So offensive to people living in actually oppressive regimes who are being killed by their governments, to compare Iran, North Korea, Russia, who's sending their people as cannon fodder at a war that it started.
Up to you and say, this is where we're headed, Kai. This is hold the mirror up to you and say, this is where we're headed if we allow this to continue.
For you to say that is absolutely absurd, and it only risks to make things worse.
Well, I mean, if you speak to Iranians, they'll say you need to ring the alarm bells now because we were a free, thriving society. Women could wear what they want, and very quickly it changed. Don't think it can never happen in Britain, because it can.
Yeah, that's so true. OK, well, let me just read out a quick couple of your stays here. Let's see what we've got. Dawn Road says, people slated the Tories and blamed them for everything. Then we have a Labour government. Well done. Well, unfortunately, Dawn, if the Tories had done a good job in government, they'd still be here, wouldn't they? Let's face it, they went through 3-4 different prime ministers. They botched Brexit. They had the online censorship bill, amongst a litany of other things they butchered. Don't butcher it in government if you don't want Labour Party to win. That's my message to them. What else have we got here? Christina says, I've just said to my husband, we don't have to worry about paying for food and keep soon because I'll probably be in prison. That's in reference to the 60-year-olds going to prison. But anyway, don't go anywhere, because coming up, it's Saturday 5 Extra. We're going to let our hair down and anything can happen. So please don't go anywhere. We've got Ask the 5 coming up. We will be back shortly after the weather.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hi there, and welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. We've got more changeable weather on the way for Sunday, some rain for many of us, but also some sunshine following from the north later. But then for Monday, it's all attention out towards the west. Here comes Storm Floris moving across the Atlantic on Sunday afternoon, deepening as it becomes a very deep area of low pressure for the time of year and bringing some very strong winds to the north of the UK on Monday. But back to Saturday evening, we have got this area of cloud and rain pushing in across Northern Ireland and Scotland, slowly working its way southeastwards across the UK through the course of tonight. Some fairly low cloud developing, so some mist and hill fog as well, and quite humid conditions in the west. Clearer and slightly cooler down across the southeast. It does mean, though, that if you are in the south and the east of the UK, we should get off to a fairly bright, if not sunny, start to the day on Sunday. So do make the most of that sunshine. It's not going to last too long. Further north and west, we run into that cloud and some outbreaks of rain. Some areas of low clouds, so misty conditions around the coast and certainly some hill fog around as well. Some heavier outbreaks of rain in places too, and quite a wet start to the day across more eastern parts of Scotland in particular. Out towards the northwest, though, of Scotland and Northern Ireland, already turning brighter here, and those brighter, sunnier conditions will work their way slowly southeastwards